All right, launching a new coaching offer with ads, part 10. The plan was to spend $50K in a 3-week period, and I'm going to document the results. Now, this is it. It's been a journey. This is the last video. So I'm going to present to you basically the key numbers, the results, how much money we made, and then also run through kind of some like learnings and considerations that I would implement if we were to do this again. So we did spend nearly the 50K. So you can see here that we spent about 48.9K in total. These two campaigns that I'm highlighting right now, we spent about 1.4K on sales ads that basically retargeted all the leads and drove them to the sales page once we did the offer. And then this campaign was reminder ads that was basically after they registered, we were reminding them to show up to the live event. Now, if you want to get like a breakdown of the funnel and everything like that, I won't run through it in this video, but you can watch the previous videos in the series. And I kind of run through absolutely everything from start to finish. And you can watch the first video and I run through kind of like my projections and what I feel like we can do and kind of like the game plan. And then you can watch me kind of execute it over the last month or so. So if you take off those two, we spent about 46,000 on registration ads. Now, these are the total numbers, not all from the ads, and I'll break down kind of the ad numbers in a second as well. But total for the launch, we've done 297K in cash collected, so close to 300K. Pretty annoying that we didn't get over the line for the 300K, but it is what it is. And then obviously people bought through a payment plan as well. So if you take into account the full amount, if they pay those payment plans off, in total for the client, we've helped them make $639,885. So, over $500,000, pretty good. And yeah, I think, I will caveat by this and say like, my clients are really fucking good. They've got a good business, good offer, good brands. They're good on video. So yes, I like to say that we had like a big influence on this in terms of like the marketing, the strategy, and just the operations of the whole thing. But at the end of the day, they also have like the secret sauce in terms of like their offer and how they speak and how they can sell. So my clients are fucking awesome. I'm not just trying to take full credit for this. But I think overall, we're really happy with the launch. This was, like I've said in the previous videos, a new offer that we've never launched before. And it was also not an ROI offer. So it wasn't, hey, we're going to help you grow a business, or hey, we're going to help you get clients. Like there was no direct ROI to this offer. So and that was different to what we've done in the past. So we were a little bit worried about the conversion rates. Would people buy it? And I think overall it went pretty well considering those two things. And I think we will launch this offer again. I'm pretty sure once we do it next time, we'll go bigger, we'll go harder, and we'll kind of like implement the lessons. So nothing too crazy to talk about on this sheet. So you can see basically this was when we did the sell on day 5, and then we sold from day 5 to day 11. And then after day 11, that was when the first deadline was. And then we kind of had like an extension on that deadline. So this was day 5, this was day 11. And then this was like the 4-day extension. So, again, general stuff, big spike obviously on day 1 when we do the first offer. Spike towards the end of the day 11 when we kind of had the first deadline, and then we had some more sales trickle in after the fact once we extended the deadline for 4 more days, and a little bit of a rush last minute to get people in. So considering I was a little bit worried, really happy with the numbers. So let's have a look at the ad numbers then. So obviously throughout this series, I suppose you can call it, on Instagram, don't post on Instagram, YouTube, you've seen me basically go through and fill this sheet out. So you can see here, total in registration ad spent was $46,366, which is cool. From that, we generated 6,425 leads. Cost per lead is $7.22. Drum roll, please. We're going to look at the final ad results. You can see here, including the registration ads and the sales ads, which I talked about earlier, we spent $48,936. The lead count is different to here. So this was Facebook reporting. This was new leads inside ActiveCampaign. So we were using Facebook leads form for the majority of this, and I'll talk about that in a second. So the tracking with Facebook is usually pretty good. I think maybe we had like double opt-ins potentially, different, like the same person opted in multiple times, which is why probably the lead went up a little bit. But it's obviously a very small difference, but that's the discrepancy there. So this was the actual new lead count inside of Active Campaign. So cost per lead was $7.25. We generated 58 sales, lead conversion of 0.91, cash collected 103,678 from the ads. So this is obviously just from the ads. The previous numbers were ads and organic combined. This is just from the ads. Revenue 189,000. So cash profit 54K, revenue profit 140K, cash ROAS 2.12, revenue ROAS 3.87. All right, so there's a bunch of numbers and I kind of like run through it all. Obviously this series is focused on the ads, but like I said, we do help the client with basically everything. So all the organic stuff in terms of like the funnels, sales process. We even help this client for this launch as well, put together the material for the actual launch in terms of the teaching content and helping them, put together and structure that. But we'll just focus on the ads now. So I've got some notes on the screen. So the ad budgeting worked pretty well. Let's move this over here. The ad budgeting worked pretty well. You can see I basically had this projection here of how much we're going to spend, and we pretty much stuck to it really well. This is important because in the previous launches, what I've sometimes done is not really projected, and I'm just spending. I'm just spending because it's going. I'm just launching new campaigns without a full-on strategy of hey, we need to hit this much spend by this date. And what I found is doing the projection, especially for a launch like this where it's stop and start, it's really important to do this because it meant no last-minute scaling. Some of the previous launches where we've spent more money, I've had to go from spending maybe 10K a day to 15K a day overnight because I'm oh shit, we're not going to hit the spend. Whereas you can see here, it was fairly relaxed. Obviously in the last week, we were always going to spend more per day, but it's not like we had to go from 2K to 5K just to hit the projected spend. So doing that allowed me to kind of increase steadily and stick to the plan, which meant there was no last minute scaling, which meant, the lead cost didn't get totally out of hand. It did go a little bit higher because we were spending more money, but that's probably part of the game, but it wasn't dramatic where, we were getting leads for $15, $20 on all the campaigns. So generally that was pretty good. The cost per lead is a lot higher than what we've done for this client previously. Previously, our KPI has been $5. This launch, I knew it was going to be a little bit more, so I kind of set the KPI for $6. But obviously, we came way above that, which was disappointing. But I've talked about this in the previous videos as well. We kind of switched up the ideal customer. We were targeting a very competitive niche in the online business world. You can probably guess what it is, right? In terms of one of the most competitive niches in online. So number one, that was always going to drive the cost per lead up because of that. And again, I think given the grand scheme of everything in terms of election, Black Friday, holiday season, we've never done a campaign like this so late in the year. We've ran some webinars and stuff in November, but we've never done a big launch like this in November. The latest we've done one, I think, has been September in terms of how late on in the year. So maybe that's, people's distractions. Obviously the election was a huge thing and we kind of launched this right in the middle of that. So maybe that obviously the CPMs weren't crazy high or anything like that. The click-through rate was low on the ads, which meant the cost per click was high, which meant, the cost per lead was high. So maybe I could be if I was to justify it, I'd be well, even though the ad costs weren't super high, maybe just, again, election, distractions, holiday season, it may be going to the right people, but maybe people just weren't fully focused on, hey, I'm going to join this live event that's going to help me improve in this area. Maybe that was why our click-through rate was so low on the ads, and I think that was the reason why the cost per lead was higher than usual. But obviously, again, our ads can improve, and I'll talk on that in a second. So I had some other notes. So yeah, overall happy with the performance given kind of the landscape of everything. Next time, if I was to do this again, number one, I feel our ads were the biggest thing for us, I think, for this was number one, we didn't take control enough with the client. So I think we've been working with this client now for 3 and a bit years. We started working them with August 2021. And with that is really good because we have a lot of trust, we have a great relationship, we're very comfortable with each other, and it's awesome. But I think also once you work with someone for so long and you get so comfortable working with them, you get a little bit complacent. And I think sometimes if this was a brand new client, I would have acted slightly differently. Just in terms of, we probably should have got him like the instructions to film the videos earlier. We should have communicated with him earlier to say, like, to look at his schedule and say, hey, when are you going to have like a day to film all these ads? And I think we could have just been a bit more on top of it and a bit more organized with that. Also sent him more detailed instructions because this guy is really good on video. I think, again, we've fallen into complacency of like, oh, we'll just send him like some ad ideas and he'll do his thing. When really what we probably should have done is a bit more clear with, hey, film this type of ad, do it this way, and just been more on top of it like we probably would be with a new client. And what that resulted in was obviously the ads performed pretty well, I think pretty well. But they weren't exactly what we wanted in terms of like multiple different angles, totally different hooks. They were kind of like similar-ish videos, all filmed in one setting. You can see, I don't want to say it was rushed because I don't want to like disrespect the client and say, oh, you rushed these videos, because it was still a great video. But I felt like with more structure and more organization and more time, we could have really filmed more outside the box ads that would have maybe got more attention, attracted different types of people, different avatars within the niche. I felt like a lot of the ads that we had were very similar. And I think that held us back. Because I think with Facebook, obviously, when you launch the ads, it's going to show the ads to like the people it knows it's going to convert first. And then as you spend more money, it starts to show it to like less warm people. And I feel like our ads weren't necessarily made for those people, which is why as we started to increase the budget, we saw that the cost per lead went up. And on top of that as well, a lot of the ads or the videos that we made, they were very direct. And I've talked about this on the channel, like scalable ads. Scalable ads is where you can basically, what most people do is they'll run an ad and it'll be like, hey, are you this person struggling with this thing? Well, I can help you achieve this amazing result. Click the link below to learn more, right? Or it's like, hey, this is a video for everyone who is this type of avatar. And if you're struggling with this, then we can help you do this, right? They're very direct, very salesy, kind of lead with like claims, offers, guarantees. And they're kind of like calling out the avatar very clearly and directly in the first line. And those ads work. But they don't work to like 100% of the market. They're going to work to the very small percentage of people that are like, hey, I need a solution to this problem right now. So the very warm people they'll work with. But as you spend more money, you're going to need more broader ads that aren't as direct, aren't as salesy. So it attracts a wider amount of people. And I felt like we didn't do that very well with these ads. The ads that we had were very direct. And again, we had multiple different ones, but they're all kind of the same, just said in different ways. And part of the ads as well, we did have like story elements to it and stuff like that I think worked very well. But the start of the ads were very direct. So if I was to do it again, some of the body of the ads were good, but I would have multiple different hooks that weren't just like, hey, if you're this person, or hey, we're looking to help this type of person. I would have made it a lot more broader. And I think that might have helped us with gathering more people and getting like a cheaper cost per lead. And then the other thing as well with the ads, you can see here that we launched the application page and it didn't actually affect the cost per lead. So let's go back to June 2023 for this client. From August 2021 to June 2023, when we've did launches like this, we've only ran to like an ad, to a landing page and ClickFunnels to get them to register, apply, opt in. Now, what we did in June 2023 was we switched to Facebook lead forms. The thinking was that the cost per lead would be much lower. And that was true. We went from getting like a $5 to $6 cost per lead down to like a $3 to $4 cost per lead. And we've had some of our biggest launches running Facebook lead forms because the lead was so cheap, it was great. But as you can see with this launch, up until this point, we were just running Facebook lead forms and it was getting really high and I was getting pretty worried. You can see we got up to like $9 here and I was a bit like, oh shit, like this isn't good. So what we did here was launch an application page. So we used a Jotform because people applied for this live event. It wasn't just like a free registration, you had to apply. Again, I've talked about that in previous videos, but basically we had, instead of having the application in a Facebook lead form, we had it on a landing page. Now, the lead cost was exactly the same on the application form than it was on the Facebook lead form. So for me, like when I look at it, I really believe that someone who applies with a Facebook lead form versus someone who applies by clicking a link, going to a website, going through like 3 to 4 questions to then apply, I feel like that person is a much warmer lead versus someone who's just clicked a button, it's popped up on Facebook, they enter a few details and a few questions, and then they're a lead. So, but the reason why we use the lead form, because the cost per lead was so much cheaper. But looking at this data, the cost per lead was the same. And I'd much rather have people go through that application form on a ClickFunnels landing page. So that was a very long point. Apologies. I've not practiced this. So if I was to do it again, if we were to do this launch again, next month, I would split the ad spend straight from the off between application page and lead form. And I wouldn't just kind of go all in on lead form, because you can see here that we spent 29 grand just on lead form, but I would have probably split that between application form, because if they're getting the same cost per lead, I'd rather them go through the application. So that's kind of like, from an ad point of view, like the learnings. I think we could have done a better job with the ad creatives, directing the client, making sure that we had like a bigger variety of ad videos to go with different angles and different hooks. So that's on us. And then just like from a strategic management point of view, I think not just relying on the lead forms was good. But in terms of like the management of the ad spend, everything like that, the decisions that we made during to manage the ads, I think was pretty good. And again, like I said, one of the most competitive niches in the online space, and we're getting leads for like $7.22, which grand scheme of things is pretty good. So yeah, overall, I'm actually pretty happy. If you go back and watch the previous videos, you would have seen me a little bit worried that maybe we weren't going to make any money. The lead conversion was 0.91%. I really like from ads, from organic, it's much higher, but from ads, I really like to get it above 1%. That's kind of like for me, and this is like a 3K offer. So if you can convert over 1% of your leads, so this isn't, people who attended or people who engaged, it's literally just from the leads, right? If you can convert 1% of the leads from ads to like a 2 to 3K offer, you're golden. Like that is, for me, is kind of like the number to go for. So we were obviously a little bit shy of that, which was a little bit disappointing. But again, grand scheme of things, we made the client money, we did well. Obviously I wanted it to be a little bit more, but it is what it is. I think if you look back at like some of the other videos, I was like, hey, I'd snap you out, because I was running through some kind of like projections here. And I said, I'd snap your hands off at a 2.4 ROAS. Sorry, a 2 ROAS on cash and a 4 ROAS on revenue. And I said like, this is what I can kind of see us achieving. I was pretty accurate, to be fair. Pretty, I don't know if that's impressive or not, but I thought it was pretty cool that it was very similar. So obviously the cash ROAS, like 92, I projected 92K in cash, 185 in revenue, and we got 103 in cash and 189 in revenue. So, I think this was based off, what is this based on? I must have based it off like 50K in spend or something. And obviously we didn't spend 100% that. So, but yeah, finished on a cash ROAS of 2.12, revenue ROAS of 3.87. I was kind of surprised that, because if you look at the split, one of my biggest worries going into this was that because there's a big difference between a 3K and a 299 per month, I just thought so many people were going to go for the 299 per month, but I was pleasantly surprised to see that it wasn't a big difference whatsoever, which is good. So we actually got a lot of the cash up front. and a lot of the ads as well, specifically, kind of like outperformed the revenue. Like it was more than 50%, which for us, usually for this client, we collect, I think I did the numbers before, it's like 45 to 46. Well, I think, yeah, the average is like 46%. We had one outlier, one launch, which was like 68% cash collected, but that's because we hardly did any payment plans. Like we didn't offer them. But usually for this client with the regular payment plans of like 6 months and 3 months, we collect about 46% of the cash up front. But this one, we did more than 50%, which was, yeah, honestly quite surprising. I don't know if that's just like an outlier, an anomaly, or just kind of like random, but yeah, one of the biggest things, I was worried that everyone would go for the payment plan, but that wasn't the case, which was nice. So yeah, they're kind of like the learnings, pretty happy with it. There's definitely a lot we can improve on. Yeah, I mean, the conversions were lower for ads and organic compared to other launches. Like I said, I think that's going to happen because this isn't like an ROI offer. But we can definitely improve that sales process. And I think for me, I just know for a fact if we improve the ads next time, we can get the cost per lead down to like $6. And if we can do that, okay, maybe the conversions won't increase in terms of the conversion percentage, but obviously that's going to like massively increase the profit. So yeah, we'll work on the client with both things. I sent through kind of like the final review to them earlier today. They seem pretty buzzing and pretty happy with everything because it's kind of like a new offer and they were a little bit nervous about launching it. So yeah, overall pretty happy. And yeah, let us know below if you like me doing this sort of stuff. I try and share obviously as much as I can. Obviously I can't show every single detail of everything because I try and keep stuff confidential out of respect for my client. But yeah, I try and share as much as I can in terms of like data and learnings and stuff like that. So if you've got any questions on the whole process, let me know in the comments below. Appreciate you guys, especially if you are one of the ones that have been watching from, part 1 all the way to part 10. I appreciate you. If this is the first time you're watching this video and you don't know what this is, just go back on all my recent videos on the channel over the past month. I've been launching this and I've been documenting it every like 2 to 3 days. From starting to launching the ads to kind of like the sales after we did the sell. So yeah, appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.